Welcome to the 1000 Club podcast, where we believe that behind every woman, there's a tribe chanting, yes! We call our tribe the 1000 Club, and every other Thursday, we invite you into our VIP section to chat, console, shoot the breeze, or inform. Find us everywhere, including Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook. And remember to follow us on all socials at 1000 Club.
Welcome back to the 1000 Club podcast, where we are recapping the Amazon series Harlem. Welcome back, ladies.
Hey!
Hey, y'all.
Yes, so make sure that you check out episode 1, which is the last episode. And in this episode, we are getting into episode 2, which is titled Saturn Returns.
Ooh.
Yes. So we talked about episode 1. Let's just go back and listen to it. Talked about bringing up the past. And so we very much get into that in this episode. So in the beginning of the episode, we get a quote from Miss Dr. Camille that if you don't learn from the past, you're bound to repeat it. So what do you all think about that? We talked about that a little bit at the end of the episode. So I know for me, I do feel like the past is very important. You do sometimes have to confront it, especially if there's something that you need to heal from. It's important to confront it. But if it's something that you need to be freed from, then you need to leave the past in the past. So there's a lot of value in the past because we learn lessons to take us into the future and for us to grow in the future. But how do you all feel about that? If you don't learn from the past, you're bound to repeat it.
I agree with that. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, I agree with that. I feel like if you don't learn or if you don't realize, what either went right or went wrong, not went right or wrong, because I don't know if it's right or wrong, but, what worked for you and what didn't, I think you're definitely going to continue to repeat whatever you've done in your past that feels comfortable, familiar, and all of that. So I agree with that quote.
Same.
Yeah. Well, the episode starts off with Ty getting a palm reading by her cousin, who I guess is that's her, side hustle, trying to get some money. And so she says to Ty that her Saturn on her lifeline means a big mistake is coming back, which is interesting because given the last episode, we would think that more so for Camille, but she says that about Ty. So we'll see what that's all about. And which is interesting. I didn't even know there was like a Saturn on the lifeline. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the ladies are sitting down, they're enjoying the meal after Angie's open mic. And Camille's talking about, she's going over Ian, the fine Tyler Lovely. So she's talking about Ian.
Okay. Now, I think talk about this real quick because I think Tyler Lepley is handsome. Yes, but
it's fine. Okay.
But you know what it is? I do see what makes him very handsome. However, if you were introduced to Tyler Lepley as the dummy Benny on the have and have nots, it's very hard to make that transition because he played that character so well, who was just like very naive, made poor decisions, thought he was this macho man, but really just was like this little boy in this character. So it's really hard for me to see him past Benny, even when he was playing Diamond and
that's where
it goes down in the paint. What was it called?
P-Valley.
P-Valley, right? Yeah.
P-Valley. That's where I fell in love, P-Valley, because I love this character.
Really quickly, the plug is "It Goes Down in the Pink" is the title of our episode from a season before. So go back and listen to that since you caught it right here.
Episode 3. It might be our episode 3, season 1.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but so it's really hard, and I know people like swooning over him. I'm just like, that damn Benny.
I think he's fine. I just feel like he's short. He's short. Like I just feel like if I see him in person, he's gonna be little, and that's the only thing that I'd be like, ooh. But I think aesthetically, he's very, very good looking.
And his smile, I love his smile.
He's very good.
Okay, all right.
So y'all, every time Christy's gonna talk about that fine.
Yeah,
Every time.
So y'all get used to it,
the
okay?
fine Tyler Lepley. I'm like,
Fine, Tyler Lepley.
all right now.
Tyler Lepley, if you want to come on this on the podcast and talk
Yes,
about this, we can definitely have a
please.
conversation. Okay, we're gonna have to reach out to him and get him on here.
And we gotta have a conversation about your riddle solving abilities. Okay, you know, 10 apples. Okay?
We want him to come on the podcast. We don't want to.
Yeah, we talk about Harlem.
We want him on first.
I don't know that having to have that.
We can have a
talk
conversation
about Harlem because
I would like to talk about his growth in acting.
Yes.
Yeah, because he definitely has made transitions, which is good to see him grow.
Yes, Tyler Lepley, if you see this, please come on the podcast. Please show us some love or something. Like, yes, because love you. Okay. But anyway, getting back into episode 2 of Harlem. So we found out last episode that Ian is Camille's kryptonite. Like, she saw him, it wrecked her world. And so they're talking and she thinks about it and she's like, oh, Ian is in town for her friend's engagement party. So she's thinking, oh, he's just stopping through. He's going to the engagement party. He's going back to Paris. But then we find out that is not the case. So there's another quotable that she says to her class, as you know, we saw last episode that she gives her lectures to her class, gives them these assignments, and she drops some really good quotables. So she says, how much of the past should be respectfully preserved and how much should be discarded to evolve? Which I think is similar to at the beginning when they talk about if you don't learn from the past, then you're bound to repeat it. That the past is all about learning lessons to evolve and to grow. Which is interesting because she's very much dealing with that, with the return of Ian and kind of struggling with, like, how does she deal with this confrontation? She knows she's going to see him at the engagement party and she is just in a wreck. So mainly, I feel like this episode really focuses on Camille and Ian, but then the other characters, they got some stuff going on too. So we got Angie, who did her open mic night, and she met this guy who she goes to meet with, and she is presented with an awesome opportunity to do Get Out, the Broadway musical. And so, yeah, Angie is not really feeling it. She's like, that I'm still above that. Even though she is still living in Quinn's home, she don't got no job and she don't got no money and she don't got her own Uber account. So, yeah, that's what's going on with Angie. Quinn, she finds out that her shop, Quinn and Joseph, that they're going up on the rent. And this is the episode where we are introduced to her mother, which is Jasmine Guy, because she has to go and ask her mother for rent. And Jasmine Guy, I loved her. First off, with episode, I love her character. But she definitely seems like a mother that I would not want to ask money for, because she's going to make you feel so bad about asking. And that's what Quinn is going through. So yeah, we got that with Quinn. Ty is breaking up with Shayla, who last episode she went out on a limb, went against like her usual IG model influencer, and she's dating Shayla, who is an investment banker, like on her level. She's having a really good time with her, but they have this awkward breaking up with each other moment. And it's so interesting because both of them are so similar. And it was just so funny to see like them both like play each other. Have y'all ever like had to break up with somebody? Like it's not you, it's me. I got to work on myself so I can be better. Have y'all ever did that?
I do that all the time. Like that is my go-to. Like I'm not gonna lie, that whole thing, you deserve to find, Maxwell. free to let you flap your pretty wings around. Like that is my
I thought she was gonna go with Mama D. I deserve.
yeah, no, I'm definitely like, you deserve someone who really likes you and, really is excited about, oh yeah, no, that's totally me. I also wish we had someone too, to talk about that, because I have a lot of, friends who are a part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And, I know that I've heard in conversations that like two Doms, which are, what both Ty and, what was the woman's name?
Shayla
are yeah. They're both dominant, and that's always like a weird thing that people say like don't go well together. So I thought that was interesting. Not only did she go out of her comfort zone for the IG model, but she also went to date another Dom, and the girl domed her.
I know. I was like, that was like crazy. She went there thinking like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but it got done to her, and she didn't know how to handle it. She was like, wait, this is my moment. You can't take this from me. So I thought that was really interesting.
It's really interesting with Ty because we keep seeing her in situations where she's not in control. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, as she dates more, like the type of women that she chooses, and to see like whether she does give up some of that control. That's going to be interesting to watch. It's so funny because they tried to like outdo each other on the breakup, which is
that girl looked familiar. Shayla, I've seen her before in something else. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up because I'm like, I've seen her before. But yeah, I think it also shows that a lot of times when people think that they are in control of a situation, they're really not.
Yeah, no, and
that's why they're trying to take control.
Exactly.
It's going to be interesting to see, or if we get to see why Ty is that way, like why she has to have that control. So that's going to be interesting. So a lot of this episode, I do feel like, was focused on Camille and Ian. And so as Camille is getting ready to go to the engagement party where she knows she's going to see Ian, Camille has this moment like in the mirror, which was so funny because it reminded me of Insecure and Issa, like how she is in the mirror. And so Camille has this moment where she's trying on outfits and she's like trying to practice what she's going to say to Ian when she sees him, which was like so funny because I'm like, that's such a thing that I feel like we would do. And I was watching this episode when I was getting my faux locks taken out. And so the girl who was taking them out, she was like, people do this? And I'm like, yeah, people will talk to themselves in the mirror. Like they gotta big up themselves in the mirror, get themselves ready or whatever. So
Camille, I stay hyping myself up in the mirror all the time.
When I used to have a bigger mirror, like in my bathroom, I was definitely like, yes, having to have pep talks with myself, preparing myself. So we see that moment with Camille. And right before she goes to the engagement party, she gets a call from her mentor and meets her at a bar. I don't remember the mentor's name, but in the first episode,
I think her name is Robin.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. So Robin, who's our mentor at Columbia, in last episode, we hear that there's a possibility that Camille can finally be a full-time professor and not an adjunct. And so she meets Robin at the bar. Robin is throwing back shots of tequila, and she drops this bomb that Robin is suspended because of something she said at a rally about not all biological women can produce, which I don't know if we should get into this because we may get canceled, Black Twitter or women Twitter, whatever the Twitters are may come after us. But that's a topic for another day, maybe another episode, a whole nother thing. But anyway, she gets canceled by all of these different groups because she said this comment at a rally and she gets suspended, which means that Camille's tenureship is at jeopardy. So all this news hits her right before she goes to this engagement party. She has all this anxiety already about seeing Ian. And so, yeah. So then Camille gets to this Titanic themed engagement party. First off, what would y'all think if you went to like one of your friends had a Titanic theme engagement party?
I think for them, they knew that it was going to be like that because they said they thought it would be funny to put them together because they were really quirky and crazy. And but what I will say is it was a little nostalgic because even though I know at the end we know what happens, that love story between Jack and whatever Kate, Rose, right. That was my first, like, Leonardo DiCaprio was like, you know, I loved him. Okay. Like my cousin actually just reminded me of that this week, that how in love with Leonardo DiCaprio I was as Jack. So I think it was weird because I think it was just weird, but that is one of those love stories that people do reference a lot. And I think it's fitting considering, you know, how we find out that it ended, I think, in episode 3 or 4. Whenever they go to remember the girl says he cheated on her with the like that. Yeah. So I think it was fitting.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, I think it was a foreshadowing. And even that night, she's all upset with him because he didn't know. How do you not know my favorite? Whatever it was. I'm like, yeah, I just think it was fitting. And we know Rose never remarried, you know, and she did end up taking like his name. So I do remember that because I was like all Titanic everything when it came out too. So I think it was also foreshadowing for the two of them. You know, young love, and there's just something about it that's so pure and strong, I guess. I did want to add real quick though, is that for Saturn, because this episode is called Saturn Returns or something, if shout out to CoStar, if you should download it. It's basically you put in your information to put your natal chart in, and it gives you specific daily updates if you do believe in like astrology and things like that. Which I do. And so Saturn is a social planet, and it rules responsibility, restrictions, limits, boundaries, fears, and self-discipline. So talking about like, if you don't, you know, learn from the past, you repeat it, all of those things we see at play here in this episode too. So I just wanted to put that out there for those of y'all that are like, why is it called Saturn Returns?
Yeah, that was interesting. I was wondering because I didn't know Saturn and the whole astrology world. I didn't know what it meant. So that adds a lot of context to why it was named that, and like the way that the episode goes, because it does deal with like the fear of confronting him, confronting the past. Like finally, like she's avoided him in episode 1, she's avoided him, but now she knows she's going to confront him. And yeah, it's just the anxiety and the fear of all of that, and dealing with the past. So that makes a lot of sense.
You know what I like about the Titanic friend though was when she said, I just had this crazy thought that something like, you know, you weren't going to come because of Ian, but I knew you were my friend and you wouldn't do that. I love that moment because it was like holding Camille accountable. And I also love that when Camille was like, you know, she got all weird, the girl called her out and said, girl, don't be awkward about it. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Which is so funny because she's an awkward friend.
Right. But that's what
it's funny because Camille
circle, because I think sometimes like we're afraid to like be that honest sometimes in friendships, and that shows just like the level, the growth and maturity in a friendship. You be like, girl, stop playing.
But I was actually going to say, you know what? Camille's actually awkward too. So I think the other friend, she's a little bit more eccentric, but Camille's very awkward. Like she reminds me a lot of Issa. I hate to go back to insecure, but she reminds me.
I also feel like that's probably. I also feel like I wonder if that's Megan Good in real life. Like she played that so well. I'm wondering if she's really like that in real life.
I do like that interview that it is a part of her personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like she would act like that in real life. So yeah, so at this Titanic theme engagement party, she finally sees Ian, finally confronts him. And of course, the encounter is nothing like how she practiced in the mirror. There still was a little bit of awkwardness, but she also finds out that he has a girlfriend. Or as Ty said, oh, he got him a Kate Middleton because she is British. So,
I missed that, but you're right. I
Yeah.
know it on my head.
yeah, so she's not even black, she's not even American, but he has this British girlfriend. And that, like, first off, seeing Ian on her block, knowing he's back in town, thinking he's just there for the engagement party already wrecks Camille's world. But now she finds out that he has this girlfriend. And so she's like trying to leave. Like she already had enough news that night with finding out she probably won't get tenureship. Then you got this girlfriend. And as she's about to leave, Ian's outside smoking a J. And then they have this whole moment. I'm not going to describe the moment. It was so nice. And what I do want to say is like, from episode 1 until this episode, it's like everything is setting this up to be like, this is meant to be. Like all of these things that are happening, like this is meant to be, like we're supposed to get back together. And they just had like this really like nice moment where they're like, it's like like you're seeing an old friend, like we're connecting, having these good, conversations about, we know each other, like this is familiar. And it gets to the point where Camille even kisses Ian. Like they share this kiss. The girlfriend comes out, interrupts it. And so she leaves. And Camille tweets, how can one tiny island hold so much of our past? Have you ever felt like that? Because I definitely feel like the DMV, where I'm from originally, holds a lot of my past. And I definitely have had some moments where I have run into the past quite a bit. Like I even had a moment where I was like talking to one guy, went over his house. Rashana was with me, went over his house, and there was a guy that I had went out on dates with before there. So
Like,
I can relate to like, how can this one place?
I've been on a couple things with you like that, Christy.
I know, because I would run into my past all the time. It's probably a good thing that I live in Chicago because that area holds so much of my past. But yeah, I mean, for y'all, I don't know if you feel like that because you don't, you no longer live where you're from either. But when you go back home, do you feel like you're just inundated with like the past? No.
No, I think I also don't have that though, because you not only have lived, well, you lived in the DMV your whole life, you lived like your adult life as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think it's a little different. Like I have not lived in Boston since basically I went to college. I went home for a year after college. So those people in my past that are there, some like my close friends and stuff, yeah, I still see them. But in terms of dating, no, most of them are locked up. Some are no longer with us. And, it's just, seriously though, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
I don't mean to laugh, but it was like some of them are locked up, and I was like, "Whoa, I was not expecting
that.
that."
They're no longer with us, so it's just, yeah, no, I don't really have that issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I don't necessarily have that issue with Rhode Island. And it's funny, I'm here now. I don't necessarily have that with Rhode Island, but I feel like a lot of my dating history is in New York. I feel like when I moved here in 2015, I did date a lot. And I feel like if I were to compare it to any type of like island in that sense, it would have to be New York. I think a lot of my dating past is wrapped up in that particular area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you run into it though a lot?
I don't necessarily run into it, but not consistently. It has happened, but not consistently. Like maybe like once or twice, but it's not something. But it also hasn't been someone who was like the Ian to the Camille. Like it wasn't someone like that. Because in all honesty, I avoided a certain part of New York for a very long time for that reason.
Right.
So I don't think I've never had that. But yeah, there's been like instances where I've like run into people who I've like dated or something like that. Like, oh, hey.
You know what? Where it does happen to me is on dating sites. Like it doesn't matter which. Like I
look at this little app holding so much history.
I'm not good with apps. Yeah, the apps. I'm not good with the apps, but you know, I get on the apps every now and again, and I try to. You know, this time I did really good. I did like a strong month, so I'm really proud of myself. But you start to see people that you like went out on a date with or a couple dates. They still want to match with you again, and they want to be like, "See, it's fate," you know, or people that I didn't meet on the app. You know, they see me on the app, so they match with me on the app, you know, to try to like reconnect and things. And it's like, no, this did not work on Plenty of Fish. It didn't work on OkCupid. It didn't work on Tinder. It's not working here on this app, you know, like
it's not going to work in this universe, in this world.
Right. So I would say I've never had it happen where, I have had it happen once when I went out, because I did date someone who was somewhat like to do the same type of things. But in terms of, you know, going out and like seeing a bunch of the past, no, but definitely on a dating app, I definitely going to run into somebody. At least they're consistent.
You know what? Really quickly before we move on, I will say when I moved to DC, that happened to me with people that I dated in college. Surprisingly enough, I ran into a lot of them in the DMV area. Yes, I didn't think about that, but yes.
Oh yeah, well I had that moment I first met. I had quite a few. I had that for a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the DMV holds a lot of my past. So like I said, it's a good thing.
But it wasn't no Ian, so
wasn't no Ian though.
That's a whole different thing. I haven't had that.
That's an entirely different thing. It seems very intense and just very stressful. So yeah, I definitely don't want an Ian. However, if I had an ex that looked like Tyler Lepley, then you know that would be hot.
Wait, you know what? I will say this. So recently I did have someone who was something like an Ian, like hit me up. And you know, like sometimes people just over the years they continue to reach out, but it's not whatever. And so I did attempt to see like, okay, let me see what was there. But then unlike Ian and Camille, where they both seem to have grown into a space now where they are compatible, it was still the same type of thing where it's like, you know, you might there's chemistry there, but it's not enough for like a solid foundation. You know what I mean? And so I think that was definitely a moment. And that's why I said, I think sometimes when the past comes and if there still is something there, you do have to confront it. At least for me, I have to confront it, because I always need a pin in it. Like I need to nail the coffin down. I'm not a person that can I'm not a person that can just put a pin in it, you know, and whatever go on. Like if I got to nail the coffin down. So that was a good, I guess, learning experience for that. And that was through social media because that person doesn't live in the same place I do. But I think social media also makes it easier for people to stay connected.
That's true. Yeah. Well, we have Camille here who continued to confront the past, and because she kept on confronting it, she finds out Ian is engaged. And I just feel like Camille was hit with so much this episode. And the kicker at the end was to find out Ian was engaged. And so that is where we are left off with in this episode. Oh, and let me just go back and say, Camille like poured out her heart and was like, let's try again. And then he was like, I'm engaged. So that's where we're left.
Which I think is really shady because I feel like he was looking for that and then was like, oh shit, I'm engaged, like came out and was like, oh, let me say that. But as we continue to recap, we will talk more about it. But I did not like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like, I don't
He
know, I felt
definitely
uneasy about him in that moment. Like there was
he
something
But I feel
about,
definitely
like she said, no, let me go first. So he came over there to have that conversation because it clearly didn't come up when they're making out, and so he went over there and he tried to start and she was like, no, let me go first. And I think that was good because I think that if he went first and led with I'm engaged, she would have
she would
never
never
said
said
her
anything.
actual feelings. She would have tried to play it off and then he wouldn't have known that the door was open because regardless of what we want to say, and shout out to Rana Roy, who plays Mira, because she's on Queens, like she's really doing it and representing for, brown girls and things like that on the big screen. All that said, that was never his person. Like I really do believe that sometimes in life people have their person, okay? And that was a person that he could do life with, but it wasn't the person that he really wanted to see himself doing life with. And so I think she needed to do that just for herself, and I think in terms of like Saturn and fears and restrictions, because I've also done that too. Like I've been Camille where it's like I've had to call someone, go over to the house and be like, yo, I don't know what you got going on right now, but I just need to just say exactly how I feel and where I'm at. And I think you prepare yourself that the person might be like, I'm not in a situation where I can, do that. But then sometimes a person's like, yeah. And in this case, he needed that. He knew when he was going back to Harlem that he might see her. You know what I mean? Like he said, he saw her at the open mic and didn't say anything either. So like that to me, he had to let her know in that moment, but I think in that moment he realized and she realized like they should have tried. And like you said, everything hit her at once. All the things that this white woman, because I think that's a part of it too, and I'm sorry, but like I don't think feminism works the same for Black women, which is why I definitely don't consider myself a feminist. But you have this woman telling you, don't follow this man, because that's going to slow you down from being on track for your career that now you're not even on track for. When you could have been living it up in Paris, having a whole moment to enjoy something that a lot of people don't get to experience with the person that you love. And now everything is crashing down. You don't get him and you don't get the job.
And she was ready to get the job. She was ready to do everything she could have done in Paris. Yeah.
So like, what was it all for? And I think that to me was a good place to put yourself. If you are Camille, to really think like, I just think in so many times in life, we play it safe. And Saturn is our social, it's really, it's about how we cannot play it safe. Sometimes we just have to take those chances, there's a quote that I'm trying to remember, but it's like, failure is the chances that you didn't take or something like that. Like it's something like that. And that was a good place, I think, for her to be. To know that, not only what you thought you were giving up Ian for has now fallen through, but now also Ian has fallen through. So what you want to do, girl?
Right. Yeah. Well, we will see where her taking chances and confronting the past gets her in the rest of the season. Before we wrap this up really quickly, we have drinks. So what are you all drinking? I have some hot chocolate and Kahlua because, New York is cold. It's winter. It looks like where they are filming, and it is cold in Chicago. So that is my drink.
I have a classic mimosa because, who doesn't like to do brunch?
Y'all know what I have. It's the morning time. It's coffee. That's what I'm drinking.
That's very New York.
Very New York. Coffee with almond milk. Okay. Very.
Yes. Well, let's toast to taking chances.
I said that makes her feel so good, saying that almond milk. She always got to announce her milk.
All right, come on. You know what, Christy? We about to cheers.
Always got to tell you whatever their substitute is. Coffee.
I'm with you, Courtney, because I like me some almond. I like me.
I love almond milk too.
Whatever.
Oat milk today, a little coconut.
All right.
a little grass. I don't know, but
let's toast to overcoming fears and taking chances.
All right.
Cheers to that. Yes.
All right. And so we will see you all next episode where we will be recapping episode 3. Cheers.
Cheers.